I think we can talk to the Labour MP and supporter of Sadiq Khan, Rupa Hook. Was it foolishly nasty of him to write that opinion editorial in The Observer likening the President of the United States to a fascist?
Well, I think some very important points were made in the piece. It was a thoughtful piece. And, you know, fascism, it doesn't have to be someone with a sort of toothbrush moustache and jackbooted, which obviously Trump isn't. But I think there are worrying wider trends. And, you know, we could be on the start of a slippery slope, really, if we look at what's happening in other countries around the world, Bolsonaro, Viktor Orban, Salvini in Italy, and we've seen the results of the European elections here. So I think, as I say, fascism doesn't all come at once, but it looks like we're on the start of a slide, and I think he's right to caution some of the tricks that Trump does to prey on vulnerable people are completely out of a playbook of the rise of far-right regimes in the 30s.
Lucy?
You know, I think this is precisely why the Labour Party lost in the European elections, because they refuse to acknowledge the reasons why people are voting the way they are voting currently. They refuse to actually confront ideas and actually come to the help of the people that they are supposed to be representing. Look at the Labour Party. They should be up north looking after the working class, but they're not.
The Party didn't even have a manifesto. You don't have any policies.
We're going to come on to that. We're going to come on to that. Let's return. If you all talk over each other, nobody is going to hear what you're saying. In response to what Rupa Hook is saying, I mean, is Donald Trump entitled or not to hit back against a man who calls him a fascist?
Well, I do think that, as Matthew suggested earlier, this actually works rather well for both of them. It appeals to both of their bases. Lots of Londoners are unhappy about Donald Trump being coming here and having the pageantry and all the pomp surrounding a state visit, and it also plays well to Trump's base in the United States. However, it's not a new thing. This has been going on for 2 years, and I remember 2 years ago covering tweets by Donald Trump about in the wake of the London Bridge terror attacks. I remember Sadiq Khan hitting out at Trump after the Muslim countries' travel ban and suggesting that everybody was welcome here, and then Trump then going on TV and suggesting that they could have an IQ test and see who was the smartest out of both of them. You know, this has been going on for a couple of years, and actually I think it plays well for both their bases.
Well, to some extent, but the Trump never backs down from a fight. So, and Sadiq Khan knows this. Yeah. And I also think it's an opportunity for the far left in this city to come out and just play and just get their anti-capitalist agenda out there and to kind of do word bingo like fascist and racist and really and get the attention and to stir the controversy. Whereas, actually, Sadiq Khan said that London is open to the world for business. Well, if it is, it needs to be looking to the United States.
OK,
it's the far left.
Well, hang on. Let's get Rupa. Rupa, what do you say to that?
I mean, I just think that it seems very petty for the leader of the free world to be picking a fight with the son of a bus driver. The whole thing is very unbefitting. It just doesn't seem very adult. And there's a long charge sheet against him. In fact, you can find footage from Boris Johnson in 2015 saying this man is unfit to be the President of the US. I mean, this is before he was elected, so we are where we are. And I agree that actually a state visit this early on, it's not normal. These state visits are very rare. It's the first one of this year. The only one of 2018 was granted to the King of the Netherlands. Only 2 American presidents have had them before. So that's a sort of level above the state visit with all the trimmings, the royal stuff. And it's only Theresa May's desperation. The January that he took office, she was the first person who went over, her desperation for trade deals that got us into this. And it seems like a sort of annual thing now, because this balloon flying over London, we saw it almost exactly 12 months ago. So, you know, they...
Well, I think, you know, the most recent presidents have had state visits. And so I think it makes sense to continue on that trend if you do see this special relationship enduring into the 21st century. And also with an economy that is booming in the U.S. right now, there's prosperity to be shared, and Brexit is being reset here in this country. There'll be a new prime minister. It's time for
with our NHS up for sale.
Well, it's not up for sale. I mean, this is the thing. Free trade is mutually beneficial
from his
to each other's
yesterday.
countries. No, and you're honestly, It really is disappointing as an American on the eve of the 75th anniversary of D-Day that you do not think that the head diplomat of the United States of America doesn't get a state visit in this country when we will be the first one to defend you if Russia ever comes to attack you or anyone else for that matter.
Again, historically, they were given to presidents who proved that they were shoulder to shoulder with us. And this one got it at the first sniff. And some of those veterans have actually said they don't want him coming.
Are you into global Britain? Do you want to do business with the United States? Because this is the
sentence I was saying. They
business.
don't want him to overshadow what are very important 75th anniversaries of people who gave their lives. Our closest ally, of course.
Right.
We want him to come, but a state visit this early on before
well, hang on, both of you. You've made your
fact,
points about the state visit. I mean, Sarah, there are also demonstrations that are carrying on now and will continue tomorrow. Do you accept that some of Donald Trump's actions have seemed beyond the pale for a British audience, or certainly many people in the public, even to many Americans, trying to block people from 7 Muslim-majority countries entering America, separating children from parents, trying to illegally cross the US-Mexico border? These are things that some people just find unpalatable.
Yes, in the sense, but I think that doesn't give the full picture on a lot of these issues. For instance, the Muslim ban was for countries that weren't sharing background checks with the United States, and it was temporary. Also, with the border issue has been going on for decades and through the Obama administration as well. It's because the system is too overwhelmed at the border and it needs to be handled with, and Trump actually has the courage to do it. Listen, I think that his demeanor is completely anti-English. I can see why the English do not warm to him. And many Americans don't either. But I would really like the conversation to move away from his character and into what he's actually doing for the United States and the world.
Right, well, let's have a look at this from Jeremy Corbyn, who is obviously Labour leader, but not attending the state banquet. Tomorrow's protest against Donald Trump's state visit is an opportunity to stand in solidarity with those he's attacked in America, around the world, and in our own country, including just this morning at Sadiq Khan. Obviously defending the Mayor of London. What do you say?
Well, I just say you guys need to decide what your relationship with the rest of the world is going to look like as you leave the EU and also with America. And this is the opportunity to put your best foot forward. And clearly the Queen, your top diplomat, wants to do it. And I would say the rest of the country needs to rally behind her.
All right. I mean, Rupa Hook, I mean, why is Jeremy Corbyn happy to dine in 2015 at a state banquet with Xi Jinping, autocratic leader of a communist state, and not the democratically elected leader of our most important ally?
I mean, obviously, we have many human rights issues with China, but the relationship
but he did attend
is
the
different.
dinner.
That's right. The relationship is different. So America is our closest ally. So with our close allies, we're able to be candid. And I hope Theresa May, we know that she's on the way out now, actually lets down her guard and says what she really thinks. She's someone who, as Home Secretary, did a lot for women's equality. A man who talks about grabbing women by the genitalia, grab them by the pussy. It's just not befitting of, as I say, an adult, let alone a president.
All right, Matthew, what do you make of the state of the relationship now between the UK and the US, listening to a conversation like this and how divisive it has been, this visit?
Well, I think it's obviously fractured. I think it could get a lot worse. I mean, imagine Trump being in office, being re-elected, and we did have a Labour government. I think that would then really put the relationship under an incredible amount of strain. I do think voters are going to pick up on the hypocrisy that we can see on display with regards to Labour's position in terms of autocratic dictatorships versus Donald Trump on the other hand. But there's a deeper issue here, Joe, which is you've just heard, you know, all the people that voted Leave being lumped in with fascism and a sort of far right on the march. And all the studies of Trump's election, interestingly, from 2016, a lot of them have shown that it's that sense that people are not allowed to voice their anxieties over issues around migration and borders and security because the instinctive response on the left is it's fascist, shut it down, don't talk about it, protest, and it makes things so much worse. And until the left recognise they're making things worse for themselves, then there'll be a lot more Donald Trumps, there'll be a lot more Brexit parties, there'll be a lot more Matteo Salvinis.
Right. Louisa?
Well, I think political leaders like Donald Trump and people like Nigel Farage here as well are whipping up hysteria among broad sections of their populations, and that's why people feel so angry. So actually, you can't just say that that sentiment was there to begin with. It's been whipped up by leaders who hold these kinds of views, and they're doing it only for their own gain. By the way, they're not doing anything in the interests of ordinary.
You've just stood at an election
people.
under a slogan, "Be to Brexit," which has sent a message to over 17 million voters that you have no real interest in how they view the social settlement, and then you're here saying that actually this is about politicians whipping up and a sort of intolerance and
Look, the Liberal Democrats
disrespect
have
for
said
others.
Unequivocally from the outset that we don't think Brexit is a good thing for the country. We're never going to apologise for that position, because there isn't a Brexit that's going to leave us better off. It's as simple as that.
Are you ever wondering?
Trump is not even in the continuum of the usual Republican Party, the GOP, because people like George W. Bush said that he wasn't going to vote for him. So he's a bit of a break. He's an aberration. He doesn't agree with the rules-based order.
No, Rupa, I mean, but that is a credible point, isn't it, Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, listen, he was a disruptor in the primary. He was completely, like, unprecedented. And I actually thought he was going to be a New York liberal. I thought he was lying the whole time. And actually, his agenda has been 80% mainstream Republican agenda, like under Ronald Reagan. Tax cuts, deregulation, strong foreign policy, supporting the family. Honestly, I think that the conversation really needs to go deeper and really look at what he's doing and who he's representing, because these people aren't just getting riled up because of Nigel Farage or Donald Trump. They represent the anger that the people feel because they've been ignored and by liberal elite policies that have not helped them.
I think actually Jeremy Corbyn had it right when he said that he doesn't think he should be accorded a state visit, but he'd love to show him around Finsbury Park Mosque to see what a tolerant,
on that thought, and before that invite goes
out,
I can just reveal that the private lunch is probably getting underway with the Queen and the President and First Lady, and then Her Majesty will invite President and Mrs Trump to view a special exhibition in the Picture Gallery, which will showcase items of historical significance. Thank you both to Sarah and to Rupa.